Hello, everybody. My name is Franklin, and I'm really excited today to talk to you about my thoughts on Spanish tutors. Again, my name is Franklin, and this is first1000hours.com. And so we're going to go right into this right now. So I have my presentation on the screen, and I just want to basically answer someone's question. Alex was asking me a question about what I thought about Spanish tutors, and so I want to give you a little bit of details about Alex. All right, so let me go into my presentation. Alex wants to learn Spanish, and so he wants to increase his listening and speaking abilities in Spanish. And so one thing he told me is that his parents are not getting him a Spanish tutor right now. And then he basically asked me, what are my thoughts on getting a Spanish tutor? And so he asked several times, was participating in different live chats here at First 1000 Hours, and I was like, okay, I'm going to do a dedicated video for you, Alex, to answer your question and give you my thoughts. Okay, so I have a lot of them. I was thinking about this for a while, but here we go. I want to tell you that if I was going to get a Spanish tutor and I was starting from scratch in Spanish, then I would want to get a tutor that was at least following Connie's for English as a second language rules. Now, I've done different videos about how Connie has had this out of the box English as a second language class, and I'll put a playlist up here just in case you want to go ahead and click on that and find out some of those out of the box things she did. All right, so I'm going to go over those rules so that you can kind of get an understanding of how she did her class. Okay, so this was it. Rule number 1, never force students to speak English, and especially not in front of the class. Obviously, we're talking in the context of Spanish, so you would just have to substitute the word English for Spanish. So this is not about forcing anybody to speak in the language that they're learning. Okay, so let's go ahead, go to rule number 2, never correct students' efforts at speaking English. What's rule number 3? Never test before giving input first. So that means that, let's say that you are learning a new word or phrase and things like that. Before you're tested on those things, you would actually have to know what those words meant or what those ideas or concepts meant before you're tested. Would that make sense? I think that makes sense to me. All right, because you have to really kind of, a teacher has to basically identify with a student and understand that if they're coming in at like level 0, they need to be treated as such. All right, let's continue. Rule number 4 is never say anything in English that isn't made comprehensible somehow, like with an item, photo, drawing, gesture, translation, and etc. So there's other things that I would probably want in a Spanish teacher, but at least I would want the Spanish tutor to follow those 4 rules. Now that's probably a different type of tutor than people are used to. I think people normally think of a tutor as someone that will help them speak from day one and all of that. But for myself, I want to be able to comprehend from day one. And so that's kind of how this channel is. I help with comprehension from day one than speaking from day one. And I believe that makes more sense because of this. I'll show you right here. Words need to be in you before they come out of you. This is based on a principle from Matthew 12 and verse 34 that says, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So basically what is in your heart or what is in your mind will come out of you if it's in you. So if you don't have words in you, how are they going to come out of you? And so basically, if you don't have words in you first, how are you going to be able to speak? And I think even more importantly, how are you going to listen to someone else? Because are we supposed to be focusing on the other person even more than ourselves? Doesn't that make a good conversation when you have good listening skills? So, okay, so what could you do? Like, okay, so this is basically, I told you about a tutor. If I wanted a tutor, I would want someone that is going to help me with my comprehension. This is something I could get into from day one. And so that could be a lot of different things. You could have someone that, anyway, you should look at the videos that I've done about Connie in her English as a second language class to get those ideas of what a real teacher using this method could be utilizing, okay? But let's say that you don't have a tutor, and that's your circumstance, Alex, and I think that might be the circumstance of other people that are looking at this program, so I want to focus on you as well, okay? So and I should give you a full disclaimer as well. I have not had a tutor for Spanish, and I haven't thought that I had to have a tutor. At one point I did, but then I have just been able to basically, by God's grace, be self-taught in Spanish. All right, so I want to share with you what does that look like, and how can you do that. All right, so what you could do is you could become a master on certain subjects using Spanish as a tool. So you could do subjects in line, I believe, with Philippians 4 and verse 8 that says, like, whatsoever things are pure, just, good, lovely report, and things like that. So that could be, I know you're learning piano, so why not look at videos in Spanish about how to play the piano? What about becoming a master? Maybe you like to learn about animals. Maybe there's a specific animal that you want to really go in depth about. Why not use Spanish to learn more about that animal? And then it might be maybe like you're like myself and you want to go more into web design. So why not learn Spanish and use Spanish as a tool to help you further your expertise in web design? And so when you do things like that, and when you're focused on those comprehensible activities and using them in a real world context that is actually useful in your real life, then what's happening is then Spanish is more than just this study that you do on occasion, but it actually is something that is more and more useful, meaning that you can probably spend more time with it. Okay, and so that's what you can do. And I also want to go to my next slide here. This is very important. And I think that this is very important to have a first 1,000-hour mindset in general. And it is this: do you see problems as opportunities? A lot of people just see problems as problems. And so we're talking about that problem that you have that is about, okay, well, how can I advance in Spanish when I don't have a tutor? So that's a problem, and you can stop there. But I think that if you have a different mindset, and I would say a first 1,000-hour mindset, you're going to be able to see that problem as an actual opportunity that is going to be a stepping stone to your success in Spanish. And so I have this book that I have on the screen, and this is actually a book that I have read called Who Owns the Ice House. This is a book that talks about business, but I believe it definitely applies, because what this book talks about is this man who owned an ice house, when this black man that owned an ice house at a time where a lot of black people were just picking cotton, but he had a different type of mindset. And even though the circumstances were not favorable for him to own a business, right, he still was able to own a business, and he was able to capitalize on opportunities disguised as problems. Okay, so and so that's what entrepreneurs do. They have that idea where they look at problems as opportunities. But I just want to talk about how people might look at problems and why that sometimes stops them from getting high level in Spanish. Okay, so this is what people might say why people might say they haven't learned Spanish. Let's go through the list. This is not a comprehensive list, but it could be like this: I never learned Spanish because I didn't have a tutor. So right now you are a young guy, right? But the thing is, if time lasts and time permits and all this, you're going to grow up, right? And so if you have the mindset right now, I'm not saying you do or if you don't, but let's say if you did have the mindset, okay, I only can learn Spanish if I have a tutor, then that could be what you say later in life. And we talk to you 10 years later, and then you say, I never learned Spanish because I didn't have a tutor. Some people say, I never learned Spanish because I didn't go to Spain, or you can insert whatever other foreign country it is. So they have that excuse. I never learned Spanish because I didn't take Spanish in high school or college. That's what some people say. I never learned Spanish because my parents didn't teach me. And so especially if you had native level Spanish speakers at home, you could say, well, I could have learned Spanish, but it was my parents that just didn't teach me Spanish. And maybe they didn't. But does that mean you couldn't learn Spanish just because your parents didn't teach you Spanish? I want to let you know that I grew up with two parents that were born in this country that did not know anything else but English. and I am learning Spanish. I don't have relatives, to my knowledge, that know anything other than English. But does that mean I can't learn another language? Okay, so let's continue. And another thing that people can say is, I never learned Spanish because I didn't have money. All right, so I want to actually share with you now this book and this quote that I think is just gold about the fact of looking at, I mean, not putting yourself in a box, not putting yourself in limitations. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at this quote from Who Owns the Ice House. It says, we also make suppositions about our own abilities, about where we fit in, what we are capable of, and what we deserve. Yet here too, we often do so without ever really challenging these ideas. And by doing so, we may be accepting limitations that are actually self-imposed. I just want to stop here, and I just want to say hello to Language Learning Lover. I'm glad that you can be here right now. We're just talking about limitations or supposed limitations. And I just, like I said, I think this quote is good. I want to continue. It says, we all want to succeed in life, to thrive and prosper, and yet we often make inaccurate assumptions about what it really takes to succeed. We presume that success requires us to possess a rare talent or have access to money, power, and privilege. We assign success to a unique personality, to luck, or to happenstance, all of which are beyond our control. And by assuming that this is how it works, we inadvertently blind ourselves to opportunities as well to our own untapped potential. And so Alex and everybody here, Language Learning Lover, and everyone, I just want to let you know that you have untapped potential. And I don't want you to focus so much on the limitations that you stop from seeing your opportunities. All right, so we're going to go more into this because I want to articulate what are those opportunities for Alex. And so if you're not Alex, then you can just insert your name in there as well. But I just want to tell you, Alex, these are your opportunities, even though you don't have a tutor at this moment in time. You are young and you have time. I just have to stop here right now. I was talking to one of my friends that was telling me he was married and he had, he has this daughter and all this stuff. And he told me at one point, he said, Franklin, I thought when I was single, I didn't have a lot of time. But then he talked to me, I'm just a single guy and all this stuff. And he said, bro, you have time. And he was not playing when he said that. And I want to tell you, Alex, bro, you have time. You don't know how much time you have right now. And especially being young and, you don't have the responsibilities right now of, having to, pay for all of the expenses of life. You can focus on different things that can help you get, other things like learning another language right now without having to focus on all these other things that I have to do as well as other people that are on this channel. All right, so you know English. Now, you might not think that that's a big thing to just know English, okay? But I just want to put this in context. I want to share with you a story. There was one day I got up and I was thinking, man, I just wanted to express with someone Spanish. Now, I do have some Spanish friends and things like that, but I just hadn't really, had like this consistent language partner for a time. And I was thinking, man, I just want to express myself in Spanish. So I went on this church group Facebook page that was in Spanish. And I said, hey, my name is Franklin, and I know English, and I would like to have I would like one of you to be my Spanish partner. I can't choose all of you to be my Spanish partner, but I would like to do a language exchange with you from WhatsApp. And you know what happened? Probably within an hour or something like that, 3 people responded to that message, and they gave me their WhatsApp numbers on that Facebook group. And I had people I could choose from. And honestly, I didn't continue with that because I was like, okay, I didn't continue with that just because I think that I just got a little bit away from that loneliness, and I was okay. So I just didn't do it. I probably should have, but I didn't. But I'm just saying, you can capitalize on the fact that you have English, right? And you know English. And so you can have friends from any part of this world that know Spanish. And so you can do a language exchange. I've done a language exchange myself, and I had this really nice person that is my friend today. And because of my friendship with this person, I was able to be invited recently to a Zoom Bible study. And I'll just put a link here if you haven't seen that video about Zoom Bible study. And actually, right after this live stream at 7:30, I'm going to probably be going to a Zoom Bible study as well. And so I get to be with I get to be with native Spanish speakers for an hour. And I have my opportunity of doing that 3 times in the week if I want to. And guess how much that costs? That costs me nothing. But, I've been able to develop a friendship. And so that has blossomed to the point where I'm part of a Spanish community. And I'm just continuing to have opportunities that fall in my lap because I'm recognizing, because I believe the Lord just has done that. And then also there are more opportunities than sometimes you think of. All right, I'm going to continue. And I should say this as well. I think, I could be wrong, but I think on Itaiki's website, there's an actual place where you can actually find people that might have similar interests as you that want to learn English, but they speak Spanish. And I have not used this. I have not used that part of Itaiki before. I've really not really used Itaiki. I know people have recommended Hello Talk, like SK Language has recommended that. I have not used Hello Talk yet. I've heard a lot of people talk about that. So you have those opportunities right there. All right, let's go ahead. You've already downloaded the Language Learning with YouTube Chrome extension. And so if you have not seen that video, I am saying every single person needs to watch that video. I will put a YouTube card up here that you can go ahead and click on. It's a recent video that I've done. It's better than dual sub. And I can literally recommend someone to learn a language with that from day one. And you could even skip Duolingo if you wanted to and just go straight onto that Chrome extension. And that's going to allow you to have access to native level content for free. And I know you were saying you don't have interesting content, but what are you interested in? Why not be able to, become a master of different subjects like we talked about and follow those interests, but do that in Spanish? You can do that. All right, let's continue. What are the other opportunities you have? You have the internet. And so you're able to connect on YouTube here, with myself and other people. You can see people that are talking about language learning and all of that. You just have unlimited possibilities of learning different things. All right. Now, I talked about myself. I already talked about this video about me going and doing a Zoom call in Spanish and video conference and all of this. It's really cool. It's very challenging, but at the same time, it's really cool to be able to do that. I want to talk about some of my limitations. Oh man, I had this all wrong. I wanted to show you a picture and now I can't show it to you all the way like I want to. I might try to find that picture really quick, but I want to tell you a story as I'm trying to find this picture and trying to do like 2 things at one time right now. But I want to talk to you about some of my limitations. I thought at one point that I could only grow things when I moved out to the country. Like I live right now in a duplex. I live in this, you could say duplex apartment, whatever you want to call it. I call it a duplex. And so I'm like, okay, I'm here. And so one of my limiting beliefs for myself is that I can't grow anything. But then someone challenged me this year. I've been in this duplex for almost 4 years. And someone said, all right, Franklin, what I'm going to do for you is I'm going to grow some plants. And so this person grew some tomatoes, just small tomatoes, grew some eggplants, grew some, I forgot, some other things for me as well, cayenne, and even gave me some okra seeds. And what she basically challenged me with is saying like, okay, I'm going to give these plants to you, and now you need to get some pots and start growing them. And I didn't know if I could do that, but I finally asked my landlord. My landlord said, oh yeah, of course you can do that. As long as you plant and, I asked my landlord if I have things neat and organized in pots, can I grow things? And she said, of course. And that would actually be a benefit. And I did not think she would say anything like that. And so I have to show you a picture that I have right here. This right here is a picture that I took today, this evening, of my garden. So I right here again are my tomato plants. I got okra that's growing. There's my cayenne right there, and I have other things like that. But what would have happened if I just said I could never do this? But I can. I didn't. This year I'm not focusing on my limitations. I'm focusing on my opportunities. And because I've done that, now I have a garden. And I can tell you that some people that have land, right? They have their own property and all that. They don't even have a garden like that because, you know, they haven't maybe focused on their opportunities. I want to show you something else. I'll give you another example. And this is my video, one of my most popular videos on my channel. It's called Duolingo versus Link versus Duolingo. Which language learning software is better? And the reason why I bring this up is I was committed to doing this YouTube channel, and that was like in November of 2018. I got this challenge from one of my friends. They're like, "Hey Franklin, why haven't you started your channel?" And then I started, and then when I started my channel, like in the end of December, my computer broke. And it's like, oh man, my computer broke. And it's like, how am I going to do this? I had a Panasonic GH2 camcorder. So I had a camcorder, right? Or DSL camera, but I did not have a computer. It's like, what am I going to do? But what I decided to do, instead of me thinking about the fact that I didn't have a computer, you know what I started to do? I started to use my phone. And this was such a tacky phone. This phone, I mean, it was already outdated like 3 years ago. It was outdated, probably, I don't know. It's not the best phone. But I was like, this is what I have. And so what I did is I started using my phone to make videos. And it's just interesting to me that this video right here that I did, I used 2 rubber bands to connect this phone to a tripod. And this video about Link versus Duolingo is right now, based on my analytics, is my most watched video. And all I did was I just uploaded a video straight from my phone without any editing whatsoever. And a lot of my videos don't have editing in them, but some of them do. And I'm just amazed that the one that doesn't have any editing whatsoever is my most watched video. At this point, it's been watched for around 44 hours. So, but, you know, again, it's the mentality that you want to do. Do you want to focus on limitations, or do you want to see your opportunities? And so I was just reminded of another thing that I saw before or read before, I think in a book called Christ Object Lessons, that said something like, many accomplish little because they attempt little. And so what I want you to do, Alex, and everybody else watching, language learning lover, and people that will see this on the replay, is I want you to be able to go forward, even if you go forward and see your possibilities, and you're going to be able to you're going to be able to maybe even surprise yourself. And I want to show you something. I'm going to put a video on the screen. It's going to be about my mistakes that I've done in language learning. And this probably will be a funny video, but the theme of this video is I have not given up, even though I've made mistakes. And hopefully that will be an encouragement to you. And there will be a video that YouTube recommends. And I hope to see you in the next video.